welcome back to the channel. We are going to continue our adventure in the Lone Wolf series of Choose Your Own Adventure novels, and we are getting ready to start book 3. So there's been a few changes as we've continued on in the series, upgrades to my character sheet that I've created to track all of our stuff. The next thing I kind of want to do is all of the reading that I've been doing aloud is really like making my voice and my throat hurt. So we're going to try using the included voiceover options from the Microsoft Edge browser. I found a voice that I find relatively pleasant to listen to, especially as compared to my extremely nasally voice. So we're going to read through this story so far, which is going to bring everybody back up to speed for those who haven't been following the story. If you haven't, I highly suggest you go back and watch the first 2 books that we've done so far. But if you don't, and you just want to see what the story is about, we'll get a summary here, and then there will be a character advancement section, and then we will continue on with the story. So let me know what you think about using this voice in the future. The text does read a lot slower than I do, but the voice has a little bit more of a resonance. You can still tell it's mechanical, but it's relatively pleasant to listen to, and we'll see how it goes. And if you guys like it, then we'll keep using it. It will definitely be less of a strain on my voice, not having to constantly be talking the entire time. So let's just see how it goes. So here is the summary of what's happened so far.
The story so far.
There we go. Okay.
In the northern land of Sommerlund, it had been the custom for many centuries to send the children of the warrior lords to the monastery of Kai. There they were taught the skills and disciplines of their noble fathers. You are Lone Wolf, and you are now the last of the warrior lords of Sommerlund. 1 year ago, the ancient enemy of your people, the Dark Lords of Helgstad, suddenly invaded Sommerlund and completely devastated the Kai monastery. All of the Kai warriors were in attendance for the feast of Feimarn, and all except you were massacred. You fought your way to Holmgard, the capital of your country, where the king sent you upon a desperate quest for help. Your mission was fraught with great danger, for Sommerlund had been betrayed by one of its own magicians, Vonator the traitor. His agents sought to kill you at every opportunity, but your skill and strength defeated their evil aims. You returned to Holmgard at the head of a great fleet, the allies of Durinr, and destroyed the Dark Lord army that besieged your capital. Much of Sommerlund was ruined by the war. The rich farmlands were laid waste and many towns were razed to the ground. But the Somlunding are a tough people and were undaunted by the enormous task that lay ahead. They set about the rebuilding of war-torn Sommerlund with such determination that now, 1 year later, few of the scars of war remain visible. For the crucial part that you played in the victory, the king has bestowed upon you the rank and title of Friarl of Sommerlund, a rare honor for one so young. The ruins of the Kai monastery and much of the surrounding lands are now Freilund under your protection. Work to rebuild the monastery was about to commence when disturbing news from the north prompted the king to summon you to the capital. Many merchants, returning from the summer trading expeditions to Kalte, told of the fall of the Brummelmark, the leader of the ice barbarians. The description of the hunchbacked magician who has succeeded the fierce Brummelmark fits only one man, Vonator the traitor. After the defeat of the Dark Lords, Vonator escaped to the frozen wastes of Kalte. He made his way to the ice fortress of Ikaya where, through deception, he tricked the cruel Brummelmark into adopting him as his magician. It was a mistake that was to cost the barbarian leader his fortress and his life. The news that Vonator still lives spreads like wildfire throughout Sommerlund. Thousands of Somlundings surround the capital and demand that Vonator be made to pay for his treachery. So great is the outcry that the king is obliged to promise that the evil traitor will be brought back to Holmgard, and made to stand trial for his crimes. For you, Lone Wolf, the king's promise is the start of a quest that will pit you against a hated foe, deep within the hostile caverns of Kalte.
All right, so there's the summary of what's happened so far. Now we need to go through and do our character advancement. You can go back to the very first video we did to actually get a summary of how to actually create a brand new character, but when you go through a new book, all you really get is one more of these Kai disciplines that we have here. I've already gone ahead and added tracking as my Kai discipline for this one. So we are going to go ahead and go to the equipment section. Equipment. Okay, so we'll go ahead and, before leaving the port, we're going to be given a map of Kalte. So we can add that to our list of special items. We don't need to do that. And we also get more gold. And we're just going to add it from the random number table. If you're following along, I'm not using the random number table because that is a piece of paper that I don't have. So I'm just using a D10. My Dungeons and Dragons D10. So we get 5. But you know what? We already have the maximum from our previous book. You can't have more than 50 gold. So that's the end of that. Okay, so we can get 2 of any of these items. It does not look like the shield is offered in this one, which is really sad. So we're going to go ahead and do the padded leather waistcoat, because that's going to allow us to get a little bit more endurance. +2 endurance. So what's that from? Anything? Oh, okay. Well, +2 endurance. And then we'll do the axe, just in case we ever need to cut something down. Okay, good. We already have a lamp spur potion, which will help us if we need it. So, yeah. And we'll switch out this mace for the broadsword, because I personally like the idea of having a broadsword. Broadsword. Okay. So we have the summer sword, which is going to be our primary fighting weapon. These 2 will be our backup weapons. We also have the magic spear, which is useful against undead. Okay, so that's it for that. We don't need to go through any of this stuff. We already know how to fight. You'll go back to the first book if you want to watch, or just wait till we get into a fight. You'll see how it works. And that is it for that. All right, so here we go. We are going to begin our journey. Again, we will be using our read aloud option. So we have a narrator.
Even before you accepted the task of bringing Vonator to justice, preparations were being made for your voyage to Kalte. The captain of the Somlanding warship Cardinal, having returned from a long Kalter sea patrol, was ordered to await your arrival at Enskaven. During the night, food, ice equipment, and canoe dog teams were taken on board. The mission was highly secret. Only senior members of the crew were told the true nature of the voyage that lay ahead. The plan is to set you ashore at Halley Bluff, drop anchor, and await your return. An elite team of trusted guides will lead you from the bluff to Akaya. Once inside the ice fortress, you are to hunt down and capture Vonator, and then return with your guides to the ship. Your mission must be accomplished within 30 days at most, for winter is closing in and no ship can withstand the grip of the Kalte pack ice. If you do not return in time, the captain will be forced to set sail without you. For 6 days, the Cardinal sails across the stormy Kalter Sea without running into a storm, but every day the temperature steadily drops until a layer of ice covers the decks. On the morning of the 7th day, the snow-capped island of Tola is sighted on the horizon. Soon after, a light wind rises from the east. At first, there appears to be little danger, but within half an hour a furious blizzard is blowing, and all sight of land quickly vanishes in the scudding drift. All day the furious gale rages. Tremendous wind sliced the tops of the huge gray waves and water crashes over the decks, masts, and rigging of the ship, freezing almost immediately into solid ice. The sides of the ship become several feet thick with seawater. It is not until early evening that the weather clears, and although the wind still blows strongly, the force of the gale is spent. You are soon to discover that the gale has blown the ship nearly 30 miles off course, along the lip of the Ljuk ice shelf. You know that to return to Halley Bluff would waste a precious day, so you decide to land on the ice shelf and start your mission from there. As the last of the canoe dogs are carried ashore, your guides tell you of the 2 possible routes to Akaya from here. The first route involves a 130-mile trek to Cloudmaker Mountain, and then, following the difficult terrain of the Viad Glacier, a further 100 miles must be covered before you arrive at the ice fortress. The alternative route involves a longer journey of nearly 180 miles into the Hrad Basin, followed by a trek of 100 miles through Storm Giant Pass to Akaya. Even if the weather and your luck hold good, either route will involve 10 days of hard trekking before you reach your goal. You should consult the map of Kalte before making your decision. If you wish to attempt the shorter, but more difficult Vide Glacier route, turn to 160. If you wish to take the longer, but easier Hrad Basin and Storm Giant Pass route, turn to 273.
All right, well, that gives us an interesting choice to make. We should go ahead, I guess, and look at the map for the map for this. Let's see here. We are somewhere. Oh, we see the Tola here. I guess this is the shelf that we're at. So that's going to be Storm Giant Pass. Broad Basin and Storm Giant Pass. So basically, we'll go this way versus via Glacier route. So we can go around this way, or we can basically just try to go straight. But one's supposed to be easier, one's supposed to be harder. But I have the. It says it says either one's going to take 10 days to do, but I feel like the shorter route is probably going to offer fewer attempts for the book to mess with us. Because if you've watched previous books, you know that they like to throw you massive curveballs as we go. So, as much as I don't like taking the harder, more difficult route, I think we probably should, just because it's going to, ideally, it will minimize the number of pages that we have to go through, which should ideally minimize the number of times that we're going to encounter things. So let's go that way and see what happens.
Your transport to Ikaya consists of 2 sledges, each drawn by a team of 6 Kanu dogs. This sturdy breed is native to Kalte, and they make ideal sledge dogs. Their thick tawny coats and powerful chests, as well as their vigor and enthusiasm even in the coldest climates, make them well suited to the work ahead. On board each sledge is enough food and equipment for the mission. Your 3 guides, Irian, Fenner, and Dice, are all experienced trappers. They are skilled at survival in the icy desert, and know of the many unseen dangers. Once the dogs are harnessed, you and Dice climb aboard your sledge and signal to the others to lead the way. As you stare across the frozen expanse of the Ljuk ice shelf, you can see a white glare on the distant horizon. This is the Vide Glacier Wall, the point where the flow of ice meets the frozen sea. Through the crisp, clear air of Kalte it looks no more than 6 miles away at most, but in reality it is nearer 60 miles away. You make good progress on the first day, and as darkness approaches, you decide to set up camp for the night. You halt inside a circle of ice pillars that have been forced upwards by the constantly moving ice shelf. The sledges are drawn together and the tent is erected beside them. Once the canvas is secured and the Kanu dogs have been settled for the night, you begin to prepare your evening meal. Suddenly, a terrifying roar is heard outside the tent. "By the gods," cries Irian. "A Bakner." Bakner are large carnivorous creatures that dwell near the Kalte coastline. Their usual prey are gallings or the smaller australs that live at the sea's edge. But this Bakner has been attracted by the scent of the dogs. It is about to attack and eat several of your sledge dog team.
All right, so we're given 3 options. If we can take the hunting option, the animal kinship option, which we don't have, or we can try to attack the Baknar, which I can't see how that's going to help us in any way. So we do have the skill of hunting. Let's see what happens when we utilize that ability.
Bakner are fierce and dangerous creatures. They are afraid of only one thing: fire. Grabbing a torch from the pile of equipment, you light it and leave the tent. The wind has become much stronger since you first made camp. It whips the fine snow into small whirlwinds that sting your eyes. A moving shadow to your right betrays the Bakner as it lopes towards you. It is preparing to pounce when it sees your guttering torch and shrieks in terror. Seconds later, it has disappeared into the darkness. A quick check of the Kanu dogs reveals that they are all safe, although still understandably nervous. To ensure that the Bakner does not attack again, you all take it in turns to sit watch that evening, torches and weapons at the ready.
Well, the thing about AI text-to-speech stuff is that it doesn't necessarily always record things the way you think it should. But whatever. It's still, so far, it's okay. It's okay. It's not so bad so far, I think. But make sure you let me know in the comments what you think so far.
The following morning, you awake at dawn to the welcome sight of Fenner preparing a hot breakfast. He passes you a steaming bowl, and you gratefully eat its contents. Then you begin loading the equipment onto the sledges for today's journey. It is a beautiful morning. The wind has dropped and the air is fresh and clear. The Kanu dogs are strong and eager to be off, and for most of the day the ice is smooth and the running easy. By nightfall, you have reached Siam Island, a pinnacle of granite rising through the ice shelf to a height of 400 feet. You make camp to the leeward side of the island in order to avoid the worst of the night winds.
All right, so we've made it to Siam Island. I wonder if that's on the map. Oh, that's right here. Okay. So we're basically going up this way, I guess. So this is where we are on the map right now. Now they want us to roll a random number, and I guess there's going to be some, I guess there's going to be some kind of event. So let's see what happens. That is a 7. So we will do this.
The following day, the weather becomes bitterly cold. Wind from the north brings a hail of ice that stings your face. Your lips soon split and bleed. By midday, you are engulfed in a blizzard that makes progress slow and tiring. The howling wind forces you to dismount from your sledge and push it. You feel utterly exhausted. Your hands and toes are numb with the cold, the sweat from your exertions freezes to your skin, lining your boots and mittens with a layer of ice. By the time you reach the glacier's edge, it is nearly nightfall. You are all so exhausted that you barely have the energy to pitch your tent and eat a meal. Disaster has all but overtaken you. You have frostbite in your toes, fingers, and nose, and unless you have the Kai discipline of healing, you lose 4 endurance points.
Well, fortunately for us, we do have the Kai discipline of healing, so we don't have to absorb that. That's very nice. But yet again, we have another random outcome or whatever we're going to call this. So let's go ahead and roll again. That's another 7. So we will go to this one.
That night, a gale sweeps across the open ice shelf and buries your tent in snow. During your sleep, the canvas is forced in upon the 4 of you and your sleeping furs become soaking wet. You awake at dawn with terrible cramp in both of your legs. It takes nearly an hour of massaging your frozen limbs before you can stand properly. You are beginning to wish that you had never set foot in this icy hell.
Yeah, that's typical of this series.
The gale gradually drops, the air clears, and the Viad Glacier is revealed in all its splendor. The even surface of ice crystals look like a carpet of snow glittering with gems of every hue, yellow, violet, blue, green, orange, and crimson, yet the crystals are of such brilliance, they would put any jewel in the shade. The ice wall rises over 800 feet and for the main part it is a smooth but very steep climb. Although the weather is fine, it takes the best part of a day to climb the glacier's edge. All of the equipment has to be unloaded and taken to the top of the glacier where it is repacked onto the sledges. The Kanu dogs do hardly anything but fight, and your food is so shaken up in the climb that a gruesome mush is all that remains of it. By the end you are exhausted. With daylight fading fast, you decide to pitch camp in the shelter of a natural ice bowl, and settle down to a much-deserved night's rest.
Boy, this just is not going very well, is it? We got another random fork in the story, so let's see. That's going to be a 6, so we'll go here.
For 3 days and nights, you fight your way northwards across the tortuous glacier. Falls, bruises, cut shins, awkward crevasses, razor-edged ice, and the constant bitter wind all conspire to sap your strength. However, you count yourself very lucky to have avoided a blizzard, and after a fatiguing trek you eventually reach the shelter of Cloudmaker Mountain in time to set up camp there for the night. This huge mountain is over 13,000 feet high, and shaped like a giant shark's fin. As the cold west winds blow around its peak, great plumes of cloud trail away across the Viad Glacier. It is this strange phenomenon which gives the mountain its apt name. You soon find an ideal campsite among the shattered fissures of the rock-strewn base. Quickly the tent is up and you are under canvas once again. You have left the tent to answer a call of nature when you discover, purely by chance, the faint glow of torchlight from a small crack in the rocks above.
Okay, so we don't have Sixth Sense, so this option is not available to us. We can investigate the light or ignore it. It seems kind of unwise to me to ignore torchlight nearby, so let's go find out what's going on.
You have climbed 15 feet to a thin ice ledge. From here you have a clear view of the fissure. You think you have caught a glimpse of someone when suddenly the ice gives way beneath your feet, and you fall headlong in a tumble of granite and snow. You prepare yourself for the shock of impact, but you plunge straight into a crevasse, hidden beneath a layer of powdery snow. You finally come to rest in a deep drift some 200 feet below the surface. Blinded, dazed, and half suffocated by snow, you begin to claw your way out of this icy grave. When you eventually free yourself, you are astounded by the sight that greets you. A vast corridor disappears into the distance as far as the eye can see. Huge stalactites of crystal hang from the icy ceiling, and the constant drip of melting snow fills the corridor with a strangely musical sound. You shout for help until your throat becomes dry and sore, but your guides do not hear you. You still have your weapons, gold crowns, and any special items, but you are without a backpack, as it is still in your tent. Looking up, you see that the hole through which you have fallen is now just a tiny speck on the roof of the passage. You notice that the strange light of the ice corridor seems to come from large stone bowls hanging from the ceiling. These are Mlair bowls, a source of eternal light discovered by the ancients many ages ago. You soon realize that your guides may never find out where you are, and quickly resolve to follow the passage in the hope of finding some other exit. After 2 hours of walking, you arrive at a junction where the passage splits in two.
All right, well, we do have the option of tracking, so we will I have to imagine that's going to lead to a better result than a random choice, so let's do that one.
Your Kai discipline of tracking reveals that the right tunnel heads east and the left tunnel heads north. You are now directly beneath Cloudmaker Mountain. Consult the map of Kalte before you decide which tunnel to enter.
Okay, we're directly beneath Cloudmaker Mountain. There's an east and a north tunnel. We need to get up to the Akaya Ice Fortress, so I'm going to assume we need to go north.
After a few hundred yards, you find yourself in a huge cavern that spreads out in all directions as far as the eye can see. You have entered the Caverns of Kalte and are now looking at an uncharted world that few Somlanding have ever seen. This massive underground labyrinth was constructed by the ancients many ages before the Somlanding set foot in Magnamund. Its wide avenues, temples, and arenas once echoed to the sounds of a race of creatures for whom the ice was a natural home. Mlair bowls still hang from the ceiling, bathing the caverns in their eternal light. You trek steadily northwards for nearly 6 hours, until you arrive at the bank of a fast-flowing meltwater river. On the opposite bank, you see a tunnel leading off into the distance. You can find no apparent way of crossing the deep water, except by using the ice floes bobbing up and down on the surface. By jumping from one floe to the next, you could get to the opposite bank, but it will not be easy. You will have to jump at least 3 of the icy slabs to reach the other side.
Okay, so right now it wants us to roll random numbers. If we have the Kai discipline of hunting, we can add 2 to the number. And if our current endurance point is less than 8, deduct 2 for the number you have picked. So we can add 2 because we have the hunting, and we don't have to worry about reducing anything because our endurance, because we are maxed out on our endurance right now. So we'll roll 6.
Running for the tunnel entrance, you quickly leave the icy river far behind. You follow the tunnel for countless hours as it bends its way northwards. It becomes impossible to recall what hour of the day it is. The perpetual half-light of these caverns never changes. Through fissures in the wall of the tunnel, you catch glimpses of other chambers, and you marvel at the sheer scale of the labyrinth. You are nearly asleep on your feet when you suddenly detect the aroma of cooked meat. It is coming from a chamber just a few yards ahead to your right. You are very hungry and must soon eat.
Okay, we can investigate the chamber or ignore it. As they said, we're hungry, so we gotta find out what's here.
You can see two men in ragged clothes, huddled together beside a fire that seems to be burning inside a small metal bowl. Over the flames, the skinned carcass of a small animal is roasting on a spit. The men are old and toothless, and they have a strange glint of madness in their slanted eyes.
All right, so we have a couple of choices to make, but that is going to have to wait for the next episode because we are 26 minutes into this, and I'm trying not to make them too long. So make sure you leave a comment. Let me know what you think of using the narrating voice for this like we have been, or if you like the old way better. And be sure to come back next time to find out what happens with the madmen that are eating here. And we'll make a decision on what we're going to do. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you're enjoying the story, and I will see you next time.